computer. Okay, so we're recording starting now, just for everybody's information. Okay, so as we put these sessions together, Roman and I will always refresh, and the people that you watch, and please don't forget to watch the Udemy videos and whatnot, and the YouTube videos and all the rest of it. There is a ton of preparation that goes into preparing for these sessions, okay? So just so you guys know, I'm running dual monitor, and all the code that I'm going to show you tonight, almost all the code I'm going to show you today, I wrote last night. So I have on this side this little piece of code that is going to make sure that I do everything correctly. So, and the reason I'm trying to show you that is I'm trying to show you a little bit of vulnerability as well from our perspective, in that you think this stuff is all coming from memory. It is not coming from memory, okay? I have the worst memory of everybody out there. But I do have I have understanding, so I can understand things really well. So what I do is I go, oh, I know I did that, and I know I solved this problem in that other piece of code. So what I have is literally thousands and thousands and thousands of hours where I can go and steal little bits of code, okay? So as I go and I begin our exercise today, I'm actually looking at an example that I know works. And again, that's what you guys should be doing as well. When you do an exercise, you have that code you can begin to steal from, okay? Does that make sense? You have that piece of code, you can go and steal from that piece of code, and that's how your memory goes. And if you're not coding at least 3-4 hours a day, you're gonna start losing this, okay? So you have to keep coding, keep practicing, keep playing around. Okay, so I want to kind of explain to you what I'm going to do. I would like to go through the following things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder. I want to make sure that you guys are good with what we're going to do. I'm going to call this folder DOM, and I want to do some sorting on it, okay? And inside of here, I'm going to create a new file. And I'm going to just call this one $info. I often create a $info file for me to remind myself of the things that I want to do. So the first thing I want to do is I want to do a array refresh. I want to do I'm going to call it a dictionary refresh. I want to do some sorting, and then I want to do a page, an HTML page, where we play with attributes and state. Okay, and I want to get some logic tips. Okay, does that sound fairly reasonable, you guys? So that's kind of what I would like to do. And again, if you want me to add something else to that list, that would be good as well. Okay. So as you guys,
Barry, will you be touching on any of the layout, like the CSS stuff? Not your favorite, but
no, very, very, very little.
Okay.
Yeah, I will a little bit, but very, 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 very little. Okay. I just do enough CSS to get me by. And the reason for that is if you go, yeah, I'm recording this, Karen, thanks. If I go to Google and say, you know, CSS space and whatever I want to do, it shows me some really great CSS that I can copy and steal from. Okay. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of a refresher on arrays and a little bit of a refresher on dictionaries. And of course, you guys know me and you know how I'm going to start. And I never know what to call these things, so I'm going to call them functions.test.js. And I'm going to go in here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy a little piece of code because I never remember how to start a test. So I'm going to test the plumbing. And of course, I'm going to say Okay, as boring as this is, I always do that because now I want to go npm test. And what I want to do is I want to do, now, if you guys notice what I am in right now, and we'll be checking this code in when I'm done. And just let me show you where I am. We have a repository called cohort 4p1. And then inside of a folder called JavaScript, we have a whole bunch of code in here that we've done through previous presentations. So I'm just going to add another one, DOM-sort, okay? And then we'll be able to check it in as the session goes. I just want to delete this one because just before I started with you guys, I put that one. I don't want that, check that one in. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to make sure that this test is going to work. So I only want to run one test. I probably got 30 or 40 tests that are in all of the other ones, and I only want the tests that are in that directory. And my test passed, but I didn't really do a test. And oops, right there. And hello world, there it is right there. Now, a lot of us have had situations where you can't tell where the previous test is. I just want to show you the little trick there is so these are some tests that I was doing before, and you can tell right there. So if I go to run these tests again, so the second time I run these tests, what I look for, just one second, that's gonna, okay. So what I look for is here's my last test pass. I scroll up until I get to my last test pass, and then I see my execution so I can tell that it ran. Okay. So again, as you guys know, if you've watched me, I always go through a discovery phase. So I have a little test here, but the test is just a framework for me being able to hold information. So what I want to do is I'm going to create myself a little space. I'm going to create myself, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to, because I'm lazy and I don't want you guys to watch me type, I'm going to create a little array. And then what I want you guys to do is tell me, okay, so here's an array. Now, this is a fairly complex array. What it is it's an array of objects. So again, we want to do a refresher of arrays and objects. If I wanted to print my wonderful wife's first name based on this array, what I want you guys to do right now is on a file, on a piece of paper, on something, what is the command? I'm going to just put it right here. So what is the command that I have to put inside of here to get that to print? Okay, so I put some questions and I want everyone to think about that for 2 or 3 minutes, for just a half a second. What is it that I want? What is it that I have to put here to get this name to print? All right, so what I'm going to do is, this is an array. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to print this on the console log. So does anybody know how to get just that on the console log? Does everybody know? Okay, and what do I do after that? Okay, will that work? So notice I'm not running a test, I'm just doing some discovery right now. So I'm just doing some fooling around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rerun that test now, and we'll see what that prints, what that shows. So what I'm doing is I'm going into my array structure, and again, Roman spent a lot of time going through arrays and objects. So I'm going to the array structure and look at this, there, prints right there, just what we wanted. So now what I want to do is just want to print the name. So what I can go inside of here is I can go dot fname. Will that work? Okay. Oh, look what I did. I put that in the wrong spot. Yeah, right, do it again. So what happened is the console log did it, and then it wasn't able to resolve that. Okay, so now what I want to do is just console log the first name. Okay, and you'll notice there it is, Lorraine. Now I want to do one other thing. Can I do this, you guys? Is this acceptable? Can I, instead of putting my like that, can I go like this? Does that work?
Seems weird.
That seems weird. So what we should be able to see is what the console log is going to be. So notice the console log on 12 is the hello world. On 13, it's Lorraine. On 14, it's Lorraine. Okay, so there's two ways of doing the same thing. This is going to be invaluable for us a little later, okay? Now, I want to do something else here. Can I do this? One more little trick that I want to do, and I want you to tell me whether I can do this. Can I go, Okay, so the first question is this valid syntax? And I want everyone to take a few seconds and get your head wrapped around this. Is this valid syntax?
Where?
What I just typed in here. Is this valid syntax? What the heck is that? Do you guys think that's valid syntax?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Can you guys explain what it is? You're right. It is valid syntax. Can you explain?
It seems to be anonymous functions, and functions are first-class citizens.
Very well said. That's beautiful. It's actually, I don't think they would consider that an anonymous function. It's an arrow function, but the reason it's not an anonymous function, it's actually, it has a place in the world. It actually is in what position of this array? It's actually in position 4 of this array. So now, the reason I wanted to go through this is I want to spend a little bit of time making sure that everybody understands round brackets, squiggly brackets, and square brackets, because I know people who have syntax, who struggle a bit with syntax, will also struggle with that. Now, I want to go back to what Rob said, exactly right. So in position 0 of this array, we have an object. In position 1, we have an object. In position 2, we have an object. Position 3, let's just, who cares? We'll just make that to 0, 1, so that it matches. It's not the index number, right? You guys all know that. So this is position 4 now. Can I put something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in there? Okay, so I'm asking you a bunch of questions as well. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure my test ran like it did last time. That's all I'm going to do. Just make sure it runs as last time. Now again, the reason I'm showing you this is when you go look at code and when you try to understand how things are working, being able to understand how this works is really good, okay? So the fact that this ran and it actually used the array means that there is no syntax issues. Syntactically, it's correct. All right, now what I want to do is if I actually want to execute this function, any ideas how I would do that? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my array, okay? And now what I want to do is I want to actually get position 4. Now, if I just go like that, what it is doing is it's accessing the function. If I want to execute that function, how do I execute a function, you guys?
You need to put in your curved brackets.
Exactly. This will now execute that function. As strange as that look, what that's doing is it's going to the array to position 4. And as Rob says, first class citizen, it comes here and it says, okay, I'm going to try to execute that. So let's,
Can you back up a little bit, Larry? What do you mean by first class citizen?
Yeah, when people use the term first class citizen, that means I can actually put a function in a variable.
Gotcha.
Okay, and I'm going to show some examples of that in a second. Oh, sorry about that. I'm going to show some examples of that. So here, when I run that now, what is line 19 going to do for me? We'll be able to tell what line 19 does. Okay, so if we look here, what this did, line 19 then went up to this line right there, and it executed this statement. So look at this, we actually got this to run. What the heck is this? Will this work? I'm going to take this one step further now. So this is using an arrow function. Okay, and I can't remember the exact syntax, but I could go function. I think I can go function. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to try to execute that function. So to execute that function, what I'm going to do now is, instead of being position 4, that's going to be position 6. Again, I want to make sure I'm not confusing anybody by what we're doing here. Just want you to understand how utterly powerful being able to use arrays and functions are. Okay, so I'm going to execute that, and then I'm going to back up and have a look at what we just did. Okay, this is yet another function. Okay, so I'm going to make this more. We're going to back up and have a look so that you guys can understand that. Just want to make sure that this is really clear. This is start showing a couple tricks, and the reason for that is I want to put another tool in your toolbox to be able to solve problems. Okay, so if we look at this array, position 0 of it is this object, position 1 is that object, position 2 is that object, position 3 is that object. Position 4 is it's just a function. We just define that function using an arrow function. Then we just have a number, and then we just have another function. So this is just defining a function just like this up here is defining a function. The only difference is it's using the old way of defining it. This is using the ES6 way of doing it, a little lazier way of doing it. This is the older way of doing it, but it's the same. They're just as valid. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually pass this a parameter. So I'm going to pass this harm, and then I'm going to say this is just another function, comma, harm. Okay, and what do you think that's going to do when I actually go to execute it? So when I go down to execute it right here, what's it actually going to show? What do you think the value of harm is going to be? Any speculation?
Whatever you put in when you call the function.
Yep, and I didn't put anything in, so what will it be? Fine. Anybody who picked undefined, you're right. Okay, and I'm gonna spend a couple more minutes here on first class citizen. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pass this text in here. This is some token text to show. I'm now gonna run that again. So do you guys see how I'm using the test framework to do discovery, just to do playing around? And do you guys see, like, in about 15 seconds we had it up? And you guys all know, I want to show you our cheat thing. I played with this last night, so I'm fairly sure this is going to work. This is going to work, right? So I have something off on the right that I'm copying and pasting, okay? But when you leave this, so a day from now or 2 days from now, all I want you to remember is I can put a function in an array. I can put a function in an object. I don't expect anyone to remember exactly how to do it. All you need to do is remember, Larry did that in that code, and I'm going to copy it into my repository. That's it. Don't remember the syntax. Okay, don't waste your mind on the syntax. Okay, so do you see this? This is some text to show. Okay, I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to create a const, which is I'm going to call the const my, which is equal to. And I'm going to say that it's equal to array test position 6. And I could use 4 or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just whatever. Okay. What is statement 22 doing here? Any guesses?
It's taking that object and putting it into a variable.
Exactly. Is it going to execute it?
No.
Good get it. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Is it making a copy of it or is it pointing to it? Exactly.
Storing the value.
Yeah, be careful though. It's not making a copy of that function. We now have two things that are pointing to the same function. So my func points to it and array test 6 also points to it. So it's like two keys to the mailbox. And that's the way I want you to think about it. That function is like a mailbox, but what we've just created is two keys to it. So I can give Melanie one of the keys, I can give Rob one of the keys, and if Melanie goes and puts something in that mailbox, Rob can use his key and go look at it, right? And that concept is a really important concept to remember because I'm going to show you that something a little more, okay? So now, if I want to write my func and go, that was a great story, okay? And if that was what we want to do, and now we go to run it, it's going to now execute that function passing that parameter to it, okay? So that's some concept stuff that I want to make sure that you understand. Now, Roman spent quite a bit of time going through callbacks, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you see
Wait, what did you just do, Larry?
right here? Okay, so what I did now,
23.
yeah, so on line 22, what I did is I took test array position 6. Test array position 6 is that function. So let's go up to the top here. Okay. And what I did, so there it is right there. That's that function right there. We'll put a comma after here. Okay. What I did now is I made a copy of the key. So this is, for using the mailbox metaphor. All I did here is I made a copy of the key. So now we have two keys to that same function. So we now have two things pointing here.
Right.
Okay. And now what I did is I executed that because now it's another key and I passed that parameter to it and it came out and it actually showed that. So that was here. Okay. All right. So what can I store in an array?
Pretty much anything you want.
Exactly. What can I store in an object?
Same.
Exactly. Can I store an array in an array?
Mm-hmm.
Can I store an object in an object?
Yes.
Okay. The last little thing that I want to show, I'm going to just delete this for now. Okay, and I want to delete this for now. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring back a little bit of it. So I needed everybody to understand that. I'm going to bring back my wonderful wife. She's awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and I'm going to say const wife equals. Okay.
Hi, Larry.
Yeah.
I have. Can you tell us about? I noticed Roman doesn't use the semicolon at the end of to terminate like a function declaration or when you declare a constant, you don't use the. I mean, I use it, but some people don't use it in JavaScript.
Yeah, it's personal preference. It's personal preference. I like using them, but the problem is when I go and write Python, and in Python you can't use them. Like it's not an option.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a preference. I've heard discussions on both ways. So for me, it's more habit than anything else.
Okay.
Okay, so if I wanted to change her first name, No, sorry, if I wanted to show her first name, do you guys know how I would do that? And again, I showed you there's two ways to do it, right? So I can go wife, which was the same as at the, okay, dot lname, or, and I can do them both together. I could go wife, square brackets, in quotes, and this is really important, lname. Oops, lname. So that's two ways of referencing that. Okay, I'm just going to run that now. Show that. Now, this discovery, and again, I know every point's important, but this discovery that we're doing, okay, look, notice that. This discovery we're doing is how we learn and play with things, okay? I do this a ton. Because again, you know, we use this thing as you need to have an inquiring mind. And the inquiring mind wants to know how things work, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is using exactly the same idea that we did before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create another variable, const my wife is equal to wife. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is instead of doing this, wife and my wife, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to print this. It's an object, right? Guys, it's an object. So, and what I did, and using the message that I said before. So notice this, key to, name, whatever. Okay, now I want to make sure that everybody understands what this is. What that is doing, and I'm going back to the mailbox metaphor, what that's doing is this is creating, and again, I'm not going to get into heap and stack and all that kind of stuff because that's, but what this is doing is it's creating a spot in memory where this object resides. What this is this is now a key to this object. And what this statement is doing right now is cutting a new key. So we now have two keys to the same object, okay? All right, so now what I want to do is, what do you think would happen if I went wife.lname equals, and her nickname, everyone calls her Shumi. Okay, I think like that, something like that. That's what her nickname is. What do you think that's going to do to the last name in my wife and the last name in wife? Does anybody have any idea? Any idea?
It's going to change it.
Yeah, it's actually, is it making two changes? Now this is really important. Is it making two changes here, or is it making one change?
One.
Exactly, and the way you think about it is you have two keys, but if somebody goes into that mailbox and changes something in the mailbox, both keys, when you open it, will see it. So let's run this. And if you understand that concept, you guys will understand more than so many of the JavaScript developers out there. You don't know how many JavaScript developers I worked with that do not understand this concept. This is, whether we like it or not, and again, okay, notice how it changed? So both references point to the same object. That is so valuable to understand, so valuable. So the way that I explain this is both those names are pointers. So both pointers are pointing to the same object. So effects of the object make that change. Okay, is that good? You guys are good with that?
Yeah.
All right.
So it's being changed in constant wife.
Did it change? Sorry, say that again.
Because so you stored wife in constant my wife, and then wife.lname Shumi, and it changes that variable. But is it, you said it only changes in one. So does that mean it's changing in like the original const wife?
So the best way to look at it, Mel, is wife is only a key to the mailbox.
Gotcha.
Okay. So this is like my super box. So this has got the contents in it, and in that contents it has a key and a first name and a last name and a comp, and pretend those are real things, right? And you look in the mailbox and you see those things. Okay, that's cool. Now, the person who has the key wife, and let's say that's you, you have the key wife. You take your key, you open it up, and what you've done is you're going to go in, reach out, and grab L name and change it from Shumlich to Shumi.
Mm-hmm.
So you've done that change. And then Rob comes in and he has the other key, the my wife key, and he goes in there and has a look. And now for him, he sees that as Shumi.
Gotcha.
That what was there is not there anymore. It's gone. You've actually physically changed it.
So it's what's in the object.
Yep.
That's changing. Gotcha.
Exactly. So the really.
Would there be any reason to actually make two different keys if they both reference the same thing and they're both the exact thing?
Well, that's a really good point. The thing is, when we start referencing things different ways, we'll start getting different things. And if you understand the whole object concept again, that's why when you have a DOM object and you click on it and you get a key some way to reference it, then you have the ability of being able to go and get that based on that key, right? So now, no matter how you get to it, I don't have to remember this name. I don't have to remember this name. I just need a way to point to this guy right there. And that is going to be so critical with the continuation of our conversation. All right, so just the concept that you can look at it multiple ways. Now, all I'm doing here, you guys, is this is just another, I'm teaching you how to use the hammer. And I remember my dad, when I was 5 years old, teaching me, don't use your wrist when you use the hammer, use your elbow. Don't use your wrist, use your elbow, okay? So again, teaching, this is another tool, but again, if you don't know where to use the hammer, that's not gonna help that very much. So what we're gonna do here is work on a couple tools, and then I'm gonna show you how we're gonna use it, okay? So multiple pointers to the same object, get the same thing, okay. So now, you guys understood this structure. So when I showed you this structure, I'm gonna bring it back again. Okay, we're gonna flip a little bit. When I showed you this structure, you all understood this structure, okay? If I wanted to get to, and I don't know, I'm gonna change these keys to short names because they just need to be. So I'm gonna call Lair, I'm gonna call Lore, I'm gonna call Jess, I'm gonna call. Pretty hard to be shorter than Aaron. Okay, Aaron, that's going to be the key. All right, so now what if I wanted to actually get those objects based on that key? If it's an array, how would I do it? Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this now. You guys understand this, I'm making these points. Okay, so if I wanted to actually look for the key Lore or the key Jess or the key Aaron, how would I have to do this? Let's write the code to do that. Okay, so I'm going to say is const e equals quote, let's go Jess. If I wanted to print Jess's last name or Jess's company or whatever, how would I go about doing that? Let's get some ideas out there. What do you guys think?
Console.log, and then in parentheses you put the array name dot square brackets key.
All right, so how many? And then what?
Square brackets key, maybe.
Okay.
I'm just guessing.
Okay, no, that's good. That's a good guess. So let's run this. Okay, how many of you guys think that's going to work?
No.
No.
All right. How are we storing this data, you guys? Is this stored in a key or is it stored in an index, in an array?
In an array.
Exactly. So how do I access the array?
Using the index.
By using the index, right? But how do I know which index it'll be? So you and I can visually look at it and we go, hey, if I want to get to Jess, I know that's index 2, right? 0, 1, 2. Yeah, index 2, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you have to update the constant key to be the index of the array, not just the.
What happened with my tester? Sorry, just wait, you guys. What happened to my tester? npm test. It should have at least gotten an error. Oh yeah, okay, good. I got a failure. Oh, you guys, you know what? Sorry. Rob, I'm going to come back to you 1 second. This has to be in quotes. Oh, let's either use singular or double. Be consistent. Because it's an array, how do I have to access it? I have to access it by the index number. We can visually look at the index number, right? We can visually look and say, oh, well, we want to get to the third one. But in programming, how do I have to do it?
Would you have to loop through this and cycle through until you find the key that you actually want?
Right on. I have to actually loop to look at, okay? So how can I loop? There's about 100 different ways we can loop. Okay, so let's just do let's do that, for I let I in, I don't know if this works. Do you guys know if this works? Let's just do a log for I. Okay, I'm gonna comment this out. Do you guys know if that works?
Yeah, it should work.
That's okay, so look at that. Okay, so it's printing 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3. So what is 0, 1, 2, 3?
The index number.
The index. So now how do I use that index to actually, let's just print the whole object. How do I print the whole object? Is that going to do it? Okay, so you guys again notice one step at a time, one step at a time, one step at a time. It's an index. You guys think that's going to work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, look, it's printing the whole object now. So can I add an if statement here to tell whether it's the right key or not? So what's my if statement say? If. Okay, and how do I get to that right value?
If array test brackets I dot key is equal to Jess.
I want to soft code it. I don't want to hard code it, right?
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay, and how do I print just the first name, you guys? Or just, yeah. How do I print just the first name?
If name.
Yeah, but I have to actually go to the entry that we're on, right? Again, there's two ways of doing that. Does that make sense? I'm going to comment this guy out now. I don't need that one. Is that right, you guys?
Yeah,
It looks right.
Okay. Um, 11 world. It looks like that didn't work, did it?
Have you finished with your curly brackets for the for and the if, or do you need an else as well?
No. No, I don't. Oh, look at this, equals quote, key quote. I do that a few times. So what was it looking for? It was looking for the string key, right?
Yeah.
Those are things that make you stay up till midnight, or 3 in the morning, or 4 in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah, been there.
Yeah,
Yep.
been there, done that. Okay, so look what it did, Jessica. Now, I'm going to ask a silly question. If I have an array of 1,000,000 records and I find it in the second record, how many times is this going to go through this loop?
1,000,000.
Exactly, it's going through 1,000,000 times. So this isn't necessarily very efficient, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so I think I can do a break here. And if I console log this, I can actually tell how many times I'm going through, and that's starting to get more efficient. But again, as you can see, I'm worrying about things that we don't really worry about that. I'm not going to really worry about that right now with you guys. If you have enough records that this becomes a problem, then you want to stop. So if you'll notice what it did just based on where the logs are, okay, is 15, it prints, first it does Larry, then it does Lorraine, then it does Jessica, it finds Jessica, and it doesn't go through Aaron, so therefore it did break out of that loop. So that worked the way we wanted it to, right?
Can you explain quickly, Larry, why is it that we use a loop to access it and not just const, to the direct variable or the part of the object that you want?
Yeah, so let's say, for example, hypothetically speaking, and we know it's not hypothetical, I want to change this key to Lore. And now I want to run it. I want Lorraine's name to print now. Okay, so what I'm saying is print me the name for the key that I'm passing in. Okay, and so you see what it does now, it prints Lorraine, right? So now by setting a parameter, by setting a value, I can actually get access to this object.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, I'm just kind of confused about the looping part. Like, I understand the loop itself, but you have to create this variable first, right, before you can go through the loop. Is that
Now
correct?
you're talking this variable here?
Yeah, the
Yep.
key const. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Can I say something?
Please.
I think it's, Melanie, it's so that you don't have to go through the array yourself. You do the
Right.
loop, so the loop goes through the array and looks to see what index that name is, like it's to automate looking through the array, basically. I think that's what the answer would be to that.
Exactly. Okay. So
That makes sense, yeah.
okay, so now
Thank you.
let's start writing some functions based on this. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new, and we're just going to do some fooling around here. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call that file and again what we're going to do is we're going to start with functions. Okay, const. What is this, you guys? What is that? Is this valid?
Yeah, this is your problem solving code, right?
Yep, it's going to become my problem solving call. So right now I'm going to go. All right, so I'm going to import that now. I'm gonna just save this code here, you guys. I just because I actually want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to write another function here.
Sorry, Larry, can I interrupt for just a second?
Yeah.
You've not put functions.js. Is there a reason for that in your import statement?
It's kind of funny. When you're using Node, which is what we're using for running the test framework, it doesn't require .js there.
Oh, right, okay.
But when you do it in the browser, it does require JS there. So I should get in the habit of just using it, right?
Oh, okay, that's cool, thanks.
Yeah, so I should get in the habit of using it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a function. And I'm going to use the function. So, okay. And what I'm going to do is in lookup is I'm going to write a function where you can pass it an array. I don't know if I can use the word array. I think I can. And you pass me a key, and I'm going to give you the use the name of the variable, and I'll return it to you. What is this called again, you guys? I just wrote. What the heck is this called again? What did I just write here?
A function or?
Yeah, or what's the term in TDD language?
Stub?
Exactly. I just wrote a stub.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in this function, I'm going to do a lookup. So if I pass it an array, and I pass it the key of the array that I want, and the name of the attribute, it's going to return the attribute. So in this case, it's going to be blank. So let's write a test. Let's save this. And let's actually write a test to test this. Okay. Now, right now, I'm going to just comment this code out. Right after my hello world. So I've done some playing. Looks cool. Here we have my array. So what I'm going to do is I want to go, if I execute funcs dot lookup, and I pass it the array, my array test, and tell it I want to pass lore. Okay, I have to put that in quotes, lore. And I want her first name. Okay, so that's good. I like that. So if I pass that, what do I want the value to be?
Lorraine.
Are you guys all okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, so now I could put that all in one statement, but what I want to do is I'm going to put this in multiple statements. So const f is going to go n is equal to that for name. And then here I'm going to go n. I want it to be Lorraine, right? You guys are all okay with that?
Yeah.
You guys see what I did there? Okay, I'm going to run my test. And again, I don't need this, so let's clear up some real estate. Man, this better not work, eh? What if it works? Would that be just terrible? All right, let's see why it didn't work. To be, and of course, it's blanked, right? So now, here's the cool thing here. This lookup function doesn't know what the array is going to look like, right? We can pass it any kind of an array. The key, maybe we'll hard code that. And then the name we don't know. Okay, so let's start stealing some of our code from here. Let's start stealing the code from here and see. Now again, And so now, instead of letting I array test, so let's uncomment this code. That's a lot of code. Let's format this code. Do you guys think this is going to work? So what we're going to do is we're going to loop through whatever array you passed me. We're going to just print the array right here so we can have a quick look as we're debugging it. And then what we're going to do is actually going to look at the key to see if it's the key you passed. And if it's the key you passed, we're actually going to, okay, so rather than this, we're going to change the nomenclature. So now this is going to become a square bracket for the name you passed it. Okay. And instead of the break, what should we do instead of the break? How many people think this is going to work?
Yes.
All right, so let's just run this sucker. Now again, these are all lines of code that we've written before. We know the lines of code work, and I don't know if we've transcribed them correctly. Oh my goodness, look at that. It actually passed. Okay, now every one of you out there should go, Larry, you've broken almost every rule you taught us. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not confident that this is doing what I said it's supposed to do. So what I'm going to actually do is go into here, and I'm actually going to put XX there, and I'm going to run it again just to make sure it's doing what I think it's doing.
Yeah, running the failing test first so you know why it failed.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. Okay, so it failed, and if we look at it, excuse me, the reason it failed is Lorraine XX. Okay, I'm still not that comfortable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this function, instead of doing it in two statements like that, I'm going to move this into the M and make that one statement. Get rid of that. Run it again. Oh, and you know what? We're getting way too many counts of logs. So I'm going to comment this guy out. I'm going to comment this guy out, and I'm going to run it. Oops. And this will just make it easier to read. The test failed. Let's look at why. There we are, Lorraine XX. Okay. I'm still not that comfortable with it. So what I want to do is, if this is really working as well as we think it's doing, it should also tell me that Lorraine, if I just change this, what do you think I need to change this to get it to work? So what do you think I need this to be?
Lean minds.
Everybody see that? Okay, let's make another one, you guys. And again, I don't like going right to the answer, so let's go XX at the end. Now, let's say Jess. And let's say what her F name is. What should that be, you guys?
Jessica.
I'm just gonna put XX because I don't. So let's just try those and see if it works. That's why, again, it's important that your computer runs these fairly fast, because you're doing these so quick. And even you can tell my machine, because I've got so much stuff running, and unfortunately knocked down as much as I can, it still takes a while to run. And if I back up, look at that, lean minds XX, so our code is working. Do you guys think we have something that's valuable already?
Yeah.
All right, and let's look at where the failure is. Look at that, Jessica XX. Look at that, it worked. All right, so at this point, I'd be pretty happy with what we did. I'm gonna clean this code up, and then I would check this into the repository. So this has got some kind of nice looking code. So let's actually put that in the repository. Let's get rid of this. I often leave some of that in so that when I go to debug, let's save this guy. Is there any code that needs to be cleaned up here? We don't need these anymore. Okay, pretty happy with that. What I should do, just to enhance, let's save this. What I should do to enhance this test, if I do something like, again, it can make it do anything I want, but if I look for, and if I look up for X, what should that be? Yes, what should that return? Based on the way that function was written.
Null or undefined?
Yeah, what does it return by default?
Empty.
Yeah, exactly, a blank. So that should now return empty. And I'm pretty comfortable now that I can run this. Okay, so I think what we have here is kind of cool. Does anybody have a problem if we go a teensy bit over into lunch, like about 12:15?
Do we get a break before then?
I want to have a break right now.
Cool. Then I'm okay with it.
I'm totally fine with it. Yeah, this is great.
All right. Is this helping at all for you guys?
Yeah.
Is this helping understand how all these things work? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to do a get status. Okay, so when it's on my get status, I have a new directory. So get.add dot. Okay. So now it's telling me the 3 files we created.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do a get.commit dash m. And what we did is played with object. Oh man. Arrays. Okay, and mine will look slightly different than yours. Get.push because I'm using SSH. Okay, in your case, okay. So now that is checked into the repository. Let's take, what time is it? 7 after? Let's take Karen. I gotta think about what Karen said from now on, but let's take till 1/4 after, okay? So that you can do both grab a tea and go to the bathroom. Okay, Karen, I can't get that visual out of my mind. That's awesome. Okay, all right, so let's just take a little bit of a break. I'm gonna pause the video recording.
Sorry, yeah, I had to step away for a second. I wasn't sure if you were still, if it was still going.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. So I just started recording. So for those of you that are watching the recording and not watching this live, I shut the recording off for a couple minutes. I'm going to check this into the repository. But what we've done since the break is I've created some HTML. I've just created some simple HTML. I put a little bit of CSS in it, and we just typed in a little bit of a body. So what we're doing is just starting to get the feel for how we can be putting this together, okay? And if we want to improve the look of these cards, we can actually go into the browser and just search CSS cards, and it gives us some really nice cards, columns of cards, and all kinds of different things like that, okay? So I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but I do want you to have a look and see what it do. The next thing that would be really cool is if I clicked on one of these, wouldn't it be cool if it could tell me which one I clicked on? Okay, now notice we're doing this all in HTML right now, so, okay. So we're just playing. So inside of here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another attribute here. I'm going to put key equals, quote, quote, if we're using double quotes, it's consistent, okay? And I'm going to put in here a and so I just want you guys to, we're just playing with HTML right now, right? And this is going to be B, and this is going to be C. Okay. And if I was to push it or look at it, I can't really tell. So now none of that's doing anything. So we just have it as an attribute here. So what's the next step? Actually, I'm going to look at just click on this guy right here. And then I'm going to click on this guy. And when I click on this guy, it shows me all the values that are for this, okay? It's what the displays are, what it looks like, any properties it might have. Okay, so this is quite valuable to have a look in here and play with all these. Okay, all of that kind of stuff, styles, event listeners, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so what I'd like to do is when I click on this, wouldn't that be cool if it told me whether that was key A, key B, or key C? Now, again, I'm in discovery mode. I'm just playing. So the first thing we're going to do is inside of our index out here, we're going to add an event listener. So I can just go document dot add event listener. And I'm going to do this different than I've done before. I'm going to do this just so you guys can see different ways of doing it. And I'm going to call this, I'm going to execute a function called my event, T-E-N-E-R. Okay, and I'm going to go function, share event listener, and it always receives an element. And all I'm going to do is log what that element is. Okay, now I just want to stop here. Is everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So now if I go over here, I do the console, I click, no matter where I click. So notice that a mouse, I got a mouse event, mouse event, mouse event, mouse event. Okay. So
Where did the E come from, Larry? That's the one thing I missed.
okay.
So that's function my event listener.
Yeah, so that's a great question here. So this is event listeners of any kind are what we call callbacks.
Okay.
And so the browser, what we're doing is saying, this statement right here, it says, hey browser, what I want you to do is when anybody clicks in the document, anywhere in the document, I want you to run this method, okay? And that method is defined here as we've seen. And the browser has made a commitment to us that's saying, hey, when I call you, I'm going to call you and give you some information. So the browser itself is calling that function. That's why it's called a callback. Because I'm just passing it, hey, because functions are first-class citizens, I can actually pass it the address. I'm giving it the key to my mailbox, right? That's the way to look at it. So I'm saying, hey, browser, when somebody clicks on that page, please just tell me about it. Just open the mailbox and tell me about it. Just yell in there. And what are you going to yell? You're going to yell where they clicked it. So as you can see from the events now, when I click in here, it's a mouse event. And then it gives me some information. It tells me the screen X and the screen Y and a whole bunch of other things as well. Where it is on the screen, where it is on the client, all that kind of stuff. Stuff that I hardly ever use. But there is something in here that I use, e.target. Okay, so inside of the event, one of the things that it gives us in the event is the target. So when I clicked in here, you can see there it is. Look at that, it's giving me that group ID. When I click inside of here, it's actually giving me the card that I clicked. It's giving me that card, it's giving me that card. Now again, I put the same names in here. I'll change them so that they make more sense. But as you can see now, it's actually giving me where it clicked. So I want to spend a second talking about adding the event listener. When I add an event listener, I can add the event listener to the whole document, or I can add the event listener to each one of these items individually. I can, and the browser will say, okay, sure, when they touch that event, I'll tell you. When they touch that event, I'll tell you. When they touch that event, I'll tell you. I often, not always, but I often set it on the whole page so I can do things based on the whole page. Okay, so let's pretend I wanted to write an interface where when I clicked on this, it remembered the last one I clicked on. That's all I wanted to do. So let's pretend I was doing a bank account interface, for example, and if I selected an account, I wanted it to remember which account I selected or whatever, okay? Let's try to do that. So wouldn't it be cool if I could get access to this key? Wouldn't that be awesome? So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to be lazy, and this isn't often things people do. Const el element is equal to e.target, and then I don't have to type this whole thing in all the time. Okay, and then I can just say here el, and all I'm doing again is I'm just using a different a key that's a little easier to carry. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to say const key equals, go to the element, I'm going to get the attribute, and I want to get the attribute that's called key. And I'm going to put it into a variable, and let's just call it K for now. And I'm going to log, well, let's log, no, the elements, and then let's log the key. So let's do that now. So let's go back to here. So if I click here, notice it gives me that card and it gives me the key. Look, it's C. If I click this one, it should be B. If I click that one, it should be A. Okay, is that ever cool? Now, what if I don't click on it? It's null. What if I click on this guy? It's null. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Is anybody with me on that one? So now,
Yeah.
what I'm going to do is I only want it to print. I only want it to log if there's a value. So all I'm going to go is if K, then I want it to do this. And I don't need the whole thing anymore. All I want is just the key. So what do you guys think that'll do? So go back to my page now. If I click right there, it's still getting triggered, but it's not telling me because of my if statement. But if I click here, there it is A. Click here, there it is B. Click there, there it is C. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Okay, now, the next thing I want to do is, again, we're just playing right now. I'm going to add, just to do something silly, I'm going to add a heading 2 to this. And when I push that heading 2, what was the, no, I'm going to say, what person did I pick again? Okay. And so I want to show you how I want this to work before I code it. So when I click this, well, let's change those names because that's silly. Well, let's just go. Okay, so we're just different names here. Okay, Lorraine. Okay, so what I want to be able to do is I want to pick this guy, and it said B. Pick this person. C. That's pretty cool. But now what I want to do is, what person did I pick? I want it to tell me. I want it to tell me who I picked last. And the reason I might want to do that is things like people might want to select a bank account and then they might want to do a deposit to it, or they might want to do the withdrawal. So, you know, or maybe you might want to say, what company did that person work for? Okay, so you have a card that has a couple things in it, and then you want to know what company that person works for. Okay, but to begin to do that, I need to know which one I picked last time. Anybody know what kind of logic I can put in here to figure that out? We're starting to work with state and kind of things like that. Okay, first of all, I want to make sure everybody out there is clear of what I'm asking. So
No.
so what I want to be able to do now is, what person did I pick? So when I push this button right here, I want it to tell me the last person I picked. So if I pick this person, that's key B. So when I say, what person did I pick? I want it to say B. So every time I click that, I want it to say B. When I pick this person, that's person A. Every time I put that, I want it to say person A. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's say to do equals, quote, the last person. All right, so using exactly the same philosophy now, I'm going to go to my index.js and I'm going to create I use that short form, TD, to do. I'm going to do actually to do.
What does to do using that instead of class? What does that allow you to do?
Now, when you say class, what do you mean by that?
Well, like on the divs, you used class and key, but on H2, you used to do. So I'm confused about what that to do is.
Okay.
What that means, yeah.
Yeah, so again, we can use classes if we want. I tend not to use it. So this class is being used for CSS.
Okay.
Okay. This key is being used, it's a name we made up.
JavaScript.
And it's being made up so I can distinguish this person from this person from this person, right? And now, so far, when I push this something, I don't want to do anything with it. I just want to push it. I just want to push it. But what I want to be able to do is to do something based on the last thing. So now I want to, every time, somehow, I want to tell my program, when I push this, I actually want to do something. Okay? So I want somehow to do that. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go back to here and say TD. So I'm going to just say right there, if TD, I'm going to log, well, do something, and then I'm just going to do the TD. And so I'm using this to be able to distinguish between two different things. So when I push this guy, this person, that right there, all I want to do is keep track of that it was A. When I push this one, I just want to keep track that it's B. When I push this, just want to keep track that it's C. But when I push this thing, well, do something with the last person. What logic can I put in there to tell me what the last person I pushed was? Anybody got any ideas? So all I want to keep track of is, hey, the last person you pushed was Lorraine. So I wanted to tell me the last person you pushed was Lorraine. When I click this guy, I just wanted to tell me, hey, the last person you pushed was Larry. When you push this guy, the last person you pushed was Aaron.
You want to connect the keys with the names.
Yep. Well, I don't want to connect them. I just want it first tell me. All I wanted to do is tell me. So how could I keep track that this is the person I pushed last? How could I keep track of that? Anybody got any idea? Can somebody come up with a better story on why you'd ever want to do that? Okay, look at what Greg said, you guys. Okay, so that's, okay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to go inside of here, index, and what we're going to keep track of is I'm going to create a variable, and this variable is going to be at the index function level. So I'm going to say last key equal, and I just make it equal to nothing. And then when you push, when you have a to do, do something. What I'm going to say, it's going to say the to do. And I'm going to also say in here, key. So I'm just going to save that, and I'm going to just see if that works. So now every time I push this, right? That says well, undefined. What does it say? Undefined on line 20.
Should that have been a comma, Larry?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Let's try that again. Okay, so now when I push this guy, it says the last key was, the last key was. How can we get the last key to be what the last key really was? So if I push that, how can I get it to tell me that was key A, that was key B, or that was key C? Does anybody know how I would do that? So this is again beginning to write logic to begin to solve my problems, because being able to do this will begin to solve my problems that I have inside of my exercises. So here, what I could do is I could say last key is equal to the key. So now we're beginning to work with persistence. We're beginning to work with persistence. So let's see now. So if I go in here and I press it, I didn't pick anybody yet, so it shouldn't tell me who it was. So the last key was blank, last key was blank, last key was blank. Okay. If I click on Lorraine, then now it should say the last person I picked was A. The last person I picked. As many times as I push this, it's still always A. When I push that, now it set it to B. Every time I push it, it's now B. I push A again, here we are. If I push this one, there it is again. All right, so that's pretty cool. So now, wouldn't it be cool if I could create cards for every person in an array? Wouldn't that be cool? I think that would be pretty cool. And then, if I pushed the card, it could give me more information about it. Wouldn't that be cool? Let's try it. Everybody prepared to try it?
Yeah, for sure.
Melanie, are you good?
Just trying to figure out the TD stuff still. So when I put the console log, I don't think I defined it. So yeah, keep going. I'm good.
Okay, well, then we can back up for a sec. Sean, are you good?
Yeah.
Zach, are you good? Robert, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Everybody knows what we've done here?
It's all good.
All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my functions test, and I'm going to go to my functions, and I'm going to write a little piece of code. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just keep that array there just to be silly. Here we weren't testing our plumbing. Here we were testing our lookup. Now what I want to do is I want to create a card. So what we're going to do is given a person, we're going to just create a card with it. All we're going to do. So what we're going to do is, again, I always do this backwards. Always, by the way, when I write code, I do this too. I get so excited to write some code. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new function here. And you notice I don't put much documentation in my, code. People, the tendency now is not to put much documentation in code. It's to use good variable names, good names, so you don't have to. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a person. So the first thing we're gonna do is const. I'm gonna create a div. That's document dot create element div. Oops, the other bracket. Okay. So we created a div. The next thing I'm going to do on the div is I'm going to add a text node for, again, I can do this in a couple statements, but I'm going to just be a little lazy here. Append child. I'm going to append a child to the div, which is going to be document. And again, you can find this stuff all, if you go through any of my code, you can find this all over the place. But if you go into, again, know what to search for. And what we're going to put inside of that node, person name. And then what I want to do is I want to set the class name div.class.
You got a spelling error there in document, just so you know.
D-O-C-U-M, oh yeah. D-O-C-U-M-E-N-T. Thank you, sir. And what do we call that? CL card? Oops. Oh, guys, we're writing way too many lines. What the heck am I doing? But I'm going to return blank. I so want to be done by 12:15. And I so want to show you guys this. Okay, anyways, we're going to return blank. Forget this code was there. So I'm going to save this, and then on my test, again, I'm going to go const div is equal to funcs dot create card, and I'm going to pass it a person. And now I can do one of two things. I can just copy this out as is, or I can just send it from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the lazy way. Array test, and I'm going to pass it position 1. And I'm going to say, hey, well, first of all, what I'll do is I'll log. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like. Okay, and then I'm going to run this. Oh yeah, for right now, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do commit status. I want to run the test. And again, I don't do super extensive testing when it comes to formatting. Never have, and I don't think I ever will. Okay, so in this case, that was kind of silly because what it's going to do is it's just going to print out a blank. So what we'll see is on line 23. Where is it? Why can't I find? Oh, there it is, right there. It just printed a blank, which was kind of silly. So what I'm going to do is inside of here, I'm going to actually return the div. I'm going to uncomment this out. And I think the only thing that I'm going to test is that it actually is a div. And that might be fine enough. Because when it comes to formatting, I haven't gotten value. And of all the production systems I've written, I haven't gotten a lot of value out of actually writing tests for the format. So yeah, it's a div. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do kind of a simple test, which is to make sure that it actually is passing me back a div. So I'm just going to do, where's my test? That's a little closer. Okay, I'm just going to say, hey, expect the div. And there's, again, you can look this up with node name. And I expect that to be quote, and it should be div. I'm just going to put an X there to make sure that it's actually testing what I think it's testing. Okay. Run it. All right, I always do this from a test perspective first, and then I'm going to put it on the page. And to be good. So it's a div. Again, you can have a look up, and it's pretty easy to find that. All right. So this is creating a div that's putting the first name in it based on a person. All right, great. So now these are the things that I'm excited to get onto my browser really quickly, right? I don't want to fool around with them. So I'm going to go to my index page. And what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to worry about the logic of creating it or anything like that kind of stuff. I'm just going to pretend I have an array. Okay, I just happen to have found an array. Oh, look, here's an array. I'm not going to worry about the how I got this array. That's going to be another lesson or something else. And I'm going to go to there. And I'm just going to have an array. So there's the array of names. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I want to actually show that card. So I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another button on here. And I'm going to put another, and I don't care, it doesn't have to be buttons, right? I'm going to put another H2 to do equals, I'm going to say add person. Okay, and I'm just going to say add a person to the end. And here we have our ID group. So all I'm going to do is at the end of ID group, I'm going to add another person. And I'm going to hard code the person for right now because we're just doing a little bit. So let's save this. Save this. I'm going to go over here. There we've got our add a person. So if I click this, notice that it's doing the same thing as when I click this guy. And the reason for that is I haven't distinguished between the two. So now I need to distinguish between the two. So when I push this, I want to know what the last person is. When I push this, I want to add a person. Two different functionalities. So I'm going to go to my index now, and instead of saying just if I have a to-do, now I want to say if the to-do is equal, and again, I got a great memory that is so short, last person, I want to do this, and I'm going to just test to make sure that works. Let's make sure we didn't break anything. Okay, so now, if I push this thing right now, it shouldn't do anything at all. If I push this person, it should say the last person was, which is great. So now if I push it, was that B? What person did I pick again? There. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that one console log because it's actually getting a little messy. Okay. All right. Now, let's save that. It should be a little cleaner. So now, when I push this, it's saying the last key, we don't know. Last person was A. Perfect. Does everybody see that logic so far? We have not done this code yet. I want to make sure that everybody's clear to what we've done so far. So we have one thing that we push that tells us the last person. We can now click on these cards. We know which card we pushed. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add somebody to the end. Everybody okay?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this piece of code right there. We're going to use my incredible memory to remember that it's in the index. Click copy it. And now we're just going to do a log here. Person. And again, we're not going to use this key for right now. That's going to be something different. That's something else we're playing on. Let's add a person. So all it's going to say is at the right time, is it going to say, let's add a person. So if I click add a person, okay, let's add a person. So let's put the logic in here to add a person. Now, if we've done this right, should be able to copy our code directly from here. let's put that in there because all it should be doing now, oh, sorry. All it should be doing now is creating a div. We haven't done anything with that div yet. Let's just make sure that it doesn't blow up. Add a card. So it said, let's add a person. It's running this line, but it's not doing anything. So how do we append things to it? So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to just log, and I can't remember what I called this guy, ID group. So how do we add something to the end of ID group? So I just print it. So add a person to the end. Oh, look at that ID group. It's found ID group. So now all we should have to do is go ID group. And again, not much dot append. Div. Should be as easy as that. So let's push this. Yay, look at that, you guys. We got Lorraine at the end. Let's do it again. There's Lorraine again. So again, same person is getting added at the end. Okay, I want to just pause here for a second, make sure everybody's completely with us, what we've done so far.
I'm a little lost at the const div.
This guy right here?
Yeah.
Okay, so in our test, oh, it says test lookup. All we're doing is we're test create card. Okay. So what this guy is doing is it's just testing the create card. Oh, let's just do this.
Okay.
So what this guy is doing, what we did is we wrote the code. Okay, this function create card. And that function is right here. And all this does is it creates a div, adds the person name to it, adds the class to it, and returns the div. So now what we did is we took the code right out of here, we copied the statement exactly.
Yeah.
And then every time we did that click, we add that person.
And where does the funcs come from? Is that from function test?
Funcs?
Yeah.
So funcs was defined right here on the import.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right. So we have a kind of fairly nice piece of code here that's kind of useful, right? Can you guys copy and steal and paste a little bit of this stuff to make it useful? Now, something that's not helpful for us yet is if I add a person, will it tell me which person it added? No. Why is that? Why is it not telling me? If I click on this person, it tells me that that's C. If I click on that person, it tells me it's B, but how come when I click on this person, it doesn't tell me? So we'll do a little inspection of that element. Okay. Okay, and the reason it is, I can't see it right now, we're gonna figure out, is because there is no key assigned to it. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna actually change this and we're gonna write a test. So we found a little problem. We're gonna actually enhance our test now. So what we're gonna say is if we pass array number 1, I wanna be able to expect div.get attribute. And I want the attribute key, oops, to be equal to this one dot key. Everybody with me? Notice how we found a problem while we were testing, and we're going to actually write a test to be the key. Why is that complaining? Do you see what the problem is there? Expect. Oh yeah, not enough brackets there. Let's run that test. And so what we're doing is we're saying that we want, when we create a division, for there to be a key in there. And that key didn't create that. So if we look up here, there's an error. It's null. It's expected it to be lower, because notice which one we passed. We passed this entry right there. That entry has a key lower, and it did not get set. So now we're going to go into here, and we're going to do a div set attribute, and we're going to set the attribute key, and we're going to go to comma person.key. All right, so now let's have a look. Let's add a person. Let's click on Lorraine. Let's go to the council, and look at that. That key is lower. Is that cool or what? If I click on this person, it's C. Click on that, it's B. Click on that, it's A. I click on that, it's lower. So if I had another person, what do you think the key of the next one will be? It's the same key, right? Same person, because what we're doing is we're adding the same one over and over again. Add it, add it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think our next useful function would be? Do you think it would be a useful function if it cleared all the cards out, all the existing cards out, and put all the cards in of an array? Do you think that would be a useful function?
For sure.
All right. So the first thing we're going to do, and I usually do this anyways, and I'm going to do this. You guys okay for about another 10, 15-ish minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I tested the lookup, I tested the create card. Okay, and what we're going to do now is just consider the following. I'm going to do a function that tests create people. And what we're going to do here is something quite different. I'm going to create a div. Okay, I'm just going to do something quite different. I'm going to create an empty div. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to create an element, and I'm going to create a div. And what I want my function to do, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const. No, I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say create all cards, and I'm going to pass it the div. Oh, I know. I'm going to pass it the div. Oops. And I'm going to pass it the array. Let's comment this up for a second. Okay, I just want everyone to stop right here for a second to make sure that you kind of understand what I'm trying to do here. So what I did is I'm going to create a div, but what I want this to create all cards to do, I want it to go through the array and add another div inside of this div, right? So what I'm doing now is I am, the whole idea of the tree structure, I'm going to give it the tree, and I'm going to say, hey, you clean yourself out, and then add the cards to it. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Melody, Rob, Mike, Robert, Zach?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. Let's just do that. And then my test, okay, so I'm gonna do something a little different. In this particular case, okay, what should I call it? create all cards. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just copy this. So create all cards. It's going to pass me a div, and it's going to pass me an array. I don't need to use the same names at all. I forgot to put a comma there. Okay, so in this particular case, what I'm going to do is I've got the div already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a array dot for each. And what that's going to do is it's going to pass me the entry to my function. And right now, all I'm going to do is do a console log of it. Okay. And this again is just using the ES6 function. So what I'm going to do is it should show me every entry in the array if this is working right. Again, I'm trying to get as close to one line as possible. Okay, so you can see here, it is actually showing every one of my items. So now what I can do it sort of the longer way, which I will to start with. So what I'm going to do is now for every, this is, call it P because it's actually for every person. And again, I usually use really short ones if they're within five lines or so. I usually use a really short one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go const the card that they're going to create is equal to function. So what I want to do now is I want to call this create card, right? Functions dot, and I want to call it with the person I'm going to get. Functions dot create card, and I'm going to, what I have to pass it, I have to pass it a person, and there's my person. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go div dot append, oops, there it was, append child, and I'm going to put the card onto it. I don't think I need that anymore. So I'm going to just append the child. So again, tons of statements. Okay, I'm going to run it again. And this shouldn't blow up. That's the theory, is it shouldn't blow up. And they're a little tough to test. So in this particular case, the test didn't blow up, but rightfully speaking, it's not really testing anything, is it? So what I'm going to do, if we write our test correctly, and again, not perfect test, I'm going to grab this code and I'm going to put it to the end of in my index. So now instead of just adding one, I'm going to try to execute that statement. So I just comment this out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work towards, let's add people. Let's add the people. And I'm not going to actually do that yet. So what I'm going to do, no, you know what? We can do it because we've already printed this ID group. So now instead of the division we created, we're going to send these people. And that array test, is that the array test that we have? Yes. Look at that array test. So let's try that. Again, let's save that. So here we've got a few people. If I click this guy right there, what's the odds of this going to work? Add a person to the end, it should say add people to the end. Poof, look at that. Larry, Lorraine, Jessica, Aaron. Okay, now if I click this person, look at the key, Lair, Lore, Jessica, Aaron. That's pretty cool. Is everybody with us, what we've done so far? Is everybody with us?
think so. I think I need to digest that last part, but yeah.
I'm going to check this code in exactly as it is.
Okay.
But again, again, don't worry about the specific statements because those you can copy and paste. And again, I can't overemphasize. I've got a screen on my right-hand side, you guys, and I know conceptually what I'm doing. Like I do understand that perfectly, but the actual statements to do it, yeah, I've got to memorize now because I've done it last night and whatnot. But generally, they're not memorized. When I did them, they're not memorized for a long time. All right, so there's still a little bit of a problem here, though, you guys. If I click add person to the end, look what it's doing is putting those people on again. 2, 2, 2, 2. Do we want that to happen? No, we would really ideally like it to clear itself out. Ideally like it to clear itself out. So let's write a test. To me, this is a bug. Let's write a test to see if we can see what the problem is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just to show something, I'm going to go, now if I go my div.children.length, I'm going to run my test again. Do I have any console logs? I want to get rid of them. Okay, if I do have any console logs, I want to get rid of them. I don't think I do. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to run it, and it'll tell me what the length is. In this case, the length should be 4 because it should be the same length as the array. Okay, let's just back up. Let's see what the length is. Let's go back up just a little bit. Where is my, anybody see? Oh, there it is right there, 4. Do you see that? So that's what the length is. Okay, that's what I want it to be. So that's good. Not a problem there. Okay. But now, if I was to, so let's just put an expect in there. So let's copy the expect statement because I get a great memory, but it's short. So let's comment that out. And let's go this guy. And what that length should be, and again, I don't want to hard code the length in, what that should be is it should be the same as my array test.length. You guys remember from all right, so I don't need that anymore. I'm going to comment it out. I'm going to delete these lines. Now, what if I was to run this again? Let's get rid of that. What do you guys think the answer would be? Because we're still trying to create the error. We haven't fixed anything. We're still trying to get our test to create the error. And in my point is when I call it over and over again, I want it to clean out what's there, and I want it to give me the new one. So let's have a look at whether it failed or not. Oh, look at this. So this is beautiful. So it failed, and where it failed is on the second time I caught it. So what I just did is I created the same error in my test. I called it twice. I expected it to wipe the one out from before, but it did not wipe the one out from before. So let's fix this test. So I'm going to go to functions, and this is kind of funky on how this works, okay? So what I'm going to do is while div dot, I forget what it is now, has first child or first child or something. So as long as it's got a first child, well, div dot, and again, these are easy to find. Okay, and what I did last night when I was searching for this, I said, hey, I want to delete all of the, everything within a div. So if the div has a first child, then I go div dot first child dot remove, and this is a function that in it, and it takes itself out, and it keeps doing that while it has a first child. So again, if you look at it, it says, oh, that makes sense. But again, couldn't come out to the top of my head. It was a search, and it showed me how to do that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this test again. And if this test passes, then in theory, it's getting rid of all those things, right? And hopefully in the next 5 minutes, we'll loop this together. Okay, so look, the test passed. Okay, so now I'm actually quite excited to go over here. So we've got some garbage in here that we were just playing with. So add a person to the end. We should change the words, but who cares? Look at that. It actually wiped out what was there and added it again. So if I push it, look at that. It actually is wiping them out and putting them back in again, wiping them out and putting them back in. Okay, so what person did I pick? What I want to do is what person did I pick? What I want to do is what company are they with? Okay, so what I want to do is I want to pick the person, and then I want to push this button and say what company are they with, and I want it to be able to print what company they're with, right? What company are they with? What company are they with? And again, you need to do that kind of stuff very, 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 very often. So what I want to do is I want to clean up my HTML. So first of all, I just want to stop for a second and make sure everybody's okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this code up here now. When I push that, what person did I pick? What company did they work with? Okay. And here I'm going to say add person. It's not add person at the end. It's going to be replace people. Replace people in group. Okay, and what we were going to do here, oh yeah, so what company were they with? So now, instead of last person, I don't want last person, we're going to say here, what company? And then I'm going to just take this, and I'm just going to change it, but I'm not going to actually do it. So now, add person, last person, I'm going to say what company right there. Okay, and that's okay, you can tell me the last key. So I'm not actually putting any of the logic in, right? I'm not putting any logic in. So replace the group, right on, it worked. If I push there, now what I wanted to do is what company did they work on? I want you to tell me what company Larry worked with. Okay, or Jessica. What company did they work with? Okay, so it's not working. But let's put the logic in now. We actually have written our test to do that already. So notice this guy. So if we get the key, this one right there, the lookup. So let's take our lookup and see if we can actually get this to work. Do you guys think we can? Can you see the line drawn? By using that piece of code, in here, when you say what company, what I'm going to do is I'm going to log that. So there's that array. What was the name of our array that we used here? Yeah, array test, that's right. What company? So array test, and now it's going to actually be the last key. Okay, and for right now, why don't we just get it to print the first name? And then we'll change it in a second when we get it to work. So log, just being a little lazy here. Too many? No. So just right now, we're gonna just get the print first name. So we're gonna save this guy. Okay, and if I go, what company did they work at? It's not going to work. If I pick, I replace these people and go Lorraine. What company did they work with? Oh, it's printing the name Lorraine. I'm so excited I can hardly contain myself. If I go comp in here, just make sure it works. If I replace the people, and I go Lorraine, and ask what company did they work with? Lean Minds. Oh my God, I think that's right. So let's have a look up here and see if that is right. Oh my goodness, that's right. Lorraine's work. Let's see if Jessica actually works with carbon capture. So let's pick Jessica. Let's see what company she works with, and look at that, CCI, carbon capture. Yes, you guys, oh my goodness. And only 45 minutes, well, half an hour, only a half an hour late, right? So do you guys see what we've done here?
Yes, I'll just need to go back and repeat it, but yeah, I can see what you did, thanks.
Was the last jump too big of one? So what we have is we have an array of people. I would love to do another couple hour session later to actually show now how I would keep this not in an array, but in an object instead of an array of objects, an object of objects. Okay, so do you see now how you guys could write logic to add items to an array? Write logic to get at the array? So you guys have now all the tools in the toolbox to do the DOM exercise, but it's still a huge stretch, okay? But again, like Margot said this morning, one byte at a time. Can I get a card to show up on the screen? Can I tell it which card it is that's going to show up? How do I insert one before it, insert one after it, okay? So if I wanted to put, I'm just going to do one little more thing. If I wanted to put a button in here, how would I actually put a button in here, you guys? Any idea? All I would do now is I would go to my functions. And now when I create my card, I could now go button equal to document.create button. Okay, so I created a button. I think that's how I do it. And then I can say, as a matter of fact, I create a little bit of text inside of the button. Do some stuff. That should be on the button. And then I take that button and I go div dot append child the button. Okay. Let's replace people. Oh, look at that, do some stuff. So when I push the button, it doesn't do anything. So how can I make it do something? Right, so what I could do on the button is go button dot add attribute. Just steal this guy. Attribute, and it's going to say let's to do, because we're down a to do path. And the to do is, and on this guy, I don't know, the to do could be add after or before or whatever I want. Okay, whoops. And I'm pretty sure that's not going to work, but so let's replace the group, do stuff. Okay, and notice the reason it's not doing anything is because in our index, we're not actually picking that up. So if we have a key, it's actually saying if to do is whatever, if to do is that. So now what I want to do is I want a new to do, if to do. Okay. And great memory, the to do is add after. Let's get rid of this. And all I'm going to do is log you rest add after. And do you guys think that's going to work? do some stuff. Okay, it's not working. So again, I would start debugging it. Okay, and the way I would start debugging it is look at that element. See if, oops, right there. You just make this a little bigger, then it'll show us more stuff, you guys. There is a way that I can see way more. Let's fill in that a little bit later. Button, do some stuff, text, do some stuff. Okay, did that attribute not get added? Doesn't look like the attribute got added. Button, do some stuff. Okay, let's have a look.
Can you add to do it? I looked, it's not an HTML attribute, so we'll.
No, it is. It's not. It's a. You can add any attributes you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, look at that! I put it on the div. That was a mistake.
Ah, there we
Supposed to be
go.
on the button. That would have been a bad ending to a nice story, eh? Let's replace it. Oh.
Now it's adding it to D button.
Console.
It doesn't. Have
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that's really bad. Thanks. You got good fast eyes.
D.
You always catch things way before I do. Oops. All right, so replace people, do something. Okay, look, you pressed after, so it is showing up. So let me ask you a question now, you guys. I want you to ponder this, and this is the last thing I'm going to spend any time with. How can I tell that it was do some stuff for Larry or do some stuff for Lorraine? So I click here, it tells me what key it is. But if I click here, it's not telling me what key it is. Anybody have any idea how I can tell? And go ahead, anybody who has it, blurt it out. How can I tell which one I added it to? So you guys remember, this is a tree structure. So if it's a tree structure, what can I always tell on a tree?
What the parent is?
Exactly. So now, if we want to do some fooling around, if I click this guy right here, I can tell what my parent is. And if I can click this right here and tell what my parent is, I can then get the attribute of my parents. And I do want to do that. I want to leave that with you, because that's the last little thing that you kind of have to do. So, okay, and I can't remember the exact command, but again, when we're running in here, we still have the element. So what I can do now is we're going to do a log of el dot, I think it's parent. Anybody know off the top of their head what it is? I didn't look this up last night. Parent or get parent. Undefined. We need to do a quick search. Does somebody want to do a quick search? What is the, how do we get the parent? Oh, it's called parent element, just like I thought. Got parent, L-E-M-E-N-T. What I want to do, so though, I want to show log.element. Okay, so what we should do is we should get 3 things printed. And again, it's not that unusual. Place people, I should get, again, we'll clean this up. Should clean this up. So look at this. So there it is, the button. And there it is, the division. And if I have the div, I can now get the key of it. All right? So with that code, you guys have tons and tons of power now. But again, I want to be really careful. The next hard part, and again, I don't want to knock anybody's spirits. Once you learn how to use the tools, the next thing you got to do is start learning how to use logic. And the only way you can start learning how to do logic is by doing it wrong a whole bunch of times. So it's like Edison said on the 1000th time that he unsuccessfully created a light bulb. He says, I've learned one more way not to do it. Unfortunately, when you write code, it's the same thing. You have to learn 1,000 ways to do it wrong before you learn how to do it right. And I know it's frustrating when you're still playing with the tools and get the tools quite right. But again, lots of practice. All right, so I hope this session helped.
Yeah, very much. Thanks, Larry. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Larry.
No problem,
Thank you.
you guys. No problem. I'd love to do another session where we actually sorted that list, and I can show you, so you can envision now if you wanted to write the logic. And so if you guys want to stretch yourselves again, write the logic to sort this by first name or by last name or by company or by key, right? So using, Roman showed you guys how to do callbacks, look out how to do the sort, and the logic is almost there. But what's the first thing you'll start with, you guys? What is the first thing you're going to start with?
Stop.
Writing a test, right? A stub with a test. Okay, so while you guys are still on, let's check this in. So how many check-ins did I do this morning?
3, 4.
Okay, so what I want you to remember is how many times should you guys be checking in a day?
Lots.
Right, so when I go and look at repositories that haven't been updated for a couple days, or repositories that haven't been updated for a week, or repositories that haven't been updated for a couple weeks, there's a message there. Okay, so I want you guys updating lots, okay? And then, okay, so it should be there. And you guys know which repository we're using, right? So this is, I'll just bring it up in my browser so you can see it, and then I'll shut the recording off. So this is in cohort 4P1, and under JavaScript, it is under DOM sort. We didn't get to the sort this morning. Okay.
So is this in your repository, Larry?
It's in cohort 4P1. I think it's in mine, yes.
And that's in the link is in Basecamp?
The link is in a whole bunch of places in the product backlog, but
Okay.
I can show you right now where it is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll show you. So if you go to GitHub, and there it is right there. So it's under Larry Evolve View. This guy right here. So GitHub/Larry Evolve View /cohort 4-P1. Okay, and so it's right there, and so all of it should be in there.
We can just clone the repository and all that?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys, good session. That was fun.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Larry. Enjoyed
All right.
that.
All right, you guys. I'm going to be in Discord about 1 or 1:15 again to help everybody eat that elephant. Okay, so let's get the exercise done we're working on, or the comp done we're working on. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.